So this is going to be my first run with my new to me saw. So we'll have a look in there, not a lot of fuel. Looks like she's leaking a bit of fuel. Fuel or oil? I can't tell. I think it's leaking oil like a sieve. Typical Husqvarna. I was looking into what makes a 365 special or 365 special. I think it's got something to do with this fuel tank being semi-see-through, which doesn't seem too important, but it's one thing that comes into it. I had a look at the carburetor when I cleaned it all up, and it's not a Walbro, it's a Zammer. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's in pretty good nick really for a 22-year-old saw. I mean, I think historically these types of saws, they all leak oil. I don't think you're going to do much about that. So it's running a 20-inch bar on it. The bar's stuffed. I need to get something else for it. I'll get round to that. So just let it warm up like I say every time I run my saws. I try not to damage them. I haven't had much luck with the 572, but what are you going to do? I don't know. Pretty good. Now that is a tidy saw. Like, I cannot understand why you would sell that. It's the sort of saw that, like back in the day, 20 odd years ago, you invested a reasonable amount of money, but in today's terms, what I bought it for, like, you must be desperate for money. Like, it's almost not worth selling it just because it's so good. Definitely worthwhile looking after. I'm really glad I saw it and I bought it. I ummed and ahed. I mean, I don't need more saws, but geez, it's fun. Gonna save the best till last. Let's see if you can figure out what that is. So this thing hot starts really well. It's pretty good saw, pretty tidy, pretty reliable. Got a fair bit cut with that. Pretty impressed with the efficiency. Tidy little saw and someone's not very happy. Hey ya. Oi. Gonna behave? This thing's running smooth as. Look at these chips. I mean, I gave the chain a touch up on my grinder after I got the saw because the teeth were blunt as, and I didn't touch the depth gauges at all. And like I was saying before, this is hardwood, And those chips for hardwood, yeah, it's a little bit green. Pretty bang on, like you cutting through this stuff like so smooth. It's a brilliant little saw. The only thing I'm finding is that I am getting the saw back from bending over. So I think for me personally, I've turned into the sort of person that runs a 28-inch bale. I mean, I started off with 20, then I went to 25 when I bought the 500. And I am denied about getting a bit bigger, and then I went 28, and to be honest with you, if I can get a saw that runs a 28, there really is no point running less. Even if you're cutting smaller wood, I mean, the cliche is you stand up and buck, and yeah, there's a reason for that. When you get a bit older, your back gets a bit weaker, and I've had a few sporting injuries, so for me, it's just the path forward. If I want to keep doing this and messing around, and I don't make money out of this, I'm not a firewood sort of selling person. I love running my saws. It's getting harder and harder to get access to timber, even though I'm surrounded by it. It's just not easy to get to. We were lucky enough that the next door neighbour cut their big trees down. We got that. Apart from that, I'd be driving a good 2.5 to 3 hours to get anywhere decent now. And I do that when I get my permits and I go firewood gathering. But to come down here, I think it took me less than half an hour to get to the ferry from my house. Probably 20 minutes waiting for the ferry and then getting across, so really not long, and then another 20 minutes to get to the property. So like the stops in between, when you tally up the whole time, like it's an hour driving. You just can't beat coming down here. Yeah, I mean, it cost me $50, but $50 to get away and have a bit of fun, yeah, why not? Hazel's gonna get locked up again. Now she's getting disobedient. I'm keen to try out the 24-inch bar on the 365 just to see what it's like. I'm sure it's more than capable. I'd rather not run a noisy saw today. Just give my ears a bit of a break. As much as it was fun yesterday, they really are loud. Just a pity that you can't get aftermarket mufflers easier in Australia that, I mean, they don't need to stop the noise, but at the same time, you want them to breathe. I think that's the biggest issue with the modern saw, especially the 572, is having something in there to give it that ability to breathe. And that's what's caused that overheating. Pretty much hijacked someone else's video in the comments section and just mentioned about my saw, and there's one guy that got quite uppity about the dealership where he bought his older Husky, said to run 25-1 in the oil, and I wasn't disputing that he was told that, but he did mention that he bought his saw a long time ago. And the point that I was trying to make is that I read the manual for my 572, so I don't just sort of do things half-cocked and make shit up and don't know what I'm doing. I tried to do the right thing, but I don't think the message got across, so I just left it alone. What a beast of a saw. Like, for what I paid for it, you just can't go wrong. Like, it's 23 years old and it pulls a 24-inch bar in hardwood. It's a steal. I can't believe that someone sold it. Ta-da! I think that's enough of the big stuff. Have a mess around with some of this smaller stuff. But I felt like I was going to run out of fuel, so I might as well stop it. I haven't really looked at the cleanliness of the tank. So there's a little bit of fuel left in there that I might try and mix around just to throw. Yeah, there's some fines down the bottom. I guess you expect that. It's a bit hard when you're refueling not to pick up something. I am super impressed with this saw. I mean, there for a while I was thinking about getting a 50cc saw, just something a bit lighter than some of the 70cc or 80cc or 90cc. I've got a 291, and the 291's not bad, but it just, compared to some of these bigger saws, obviously with capacity, it just doesn't feel up to the task. Whereas when I used that 550 once, I just felt like it was a more capable saw. Even though in that Mark 1 version there's some sort of issue with the fueling system, it just seems to get bogged down and then after a while picks back up. I don't know what the problem is, but obviously that's the reason why a Mark 2 was made. But anyway, this was a fun little stint. The only thing that probably wasn't fun was locking up the dog. But unfortunately I just can't keep stopping and running after her and chasing her, and she's settled down now and she looks a bit happier. So all in all, I think we've had a good weekend. She's been for a few walks, sniffed absolutely everything. I've run a few saws, I tried out my pipes. I'm not overly impressed with the 572 and the pipe on that. That needs a lot of adjustment. The pipe on the 372 clone, it's not bad. It's not brilliant. And there's not a lot of changes that I do need to make to it, other than it does stick out a little bit when you're up in here and it creates that heat. I don't feel it on my hand, whereas with the 572 it's sort of pointed out towards this way, and when you're in big timber and you're here, it just deflects straight onto your hand. It's no good. I need to get it back out that way. So I'll work on something, and I need to create more volume. I'd like to do something to get the noise down. I mean, worst case I can probably buy one of those steadfast things, but I just don't like the idea of spending $400 on exhaust if I can try and weld something up. And yeah, it takes a bit of time to prototype something, but I'd rather do that. That's just me personally. What I enjoy doing is messing around. I don't really have the best equipment to do that, but it's something that I enjoy doing. Keeps me out of trouble. One thing I didn't sort of mention as I was doing it, I turn up the oiler on this, and you can see how clean it is in comparison to the other bars that I used. I've put them away now, but all of the soft manky stuff on the inside just made it go brown. There's not a lot you can do about that. The bars do get hot no matter how much oil you're pumping through the bar. It's just one of those things. So I'm really impressed with how it oils, how it runs, its power. And you can see that thing there, it's got a couple of holes in it. But, you know, that's, I don't know, I guess 36, 40 inch sort of log. And it had the power to get through that, no problem. I mean, I took my time, but it's what you want. Don't overheat your saw. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling on. Not too sure where I'll be out next. I'm planning on getting another firewood permit. They've started up in November again, so I had a look online the other day, and this really limited options down south. Just seems like everything's up north, so I don't know if I want to go all the way up there. If I do, I'm going to have to stay somewhere and then take the dog with me, and it's a bit of organisation that I don't really want to do. So I'll nut something out, and I will see you all hopefully very shortly. Thanks for joining me.